My 92 C1500 had a coolant leak that you can see coming out right there. And then you'd see a little bit on this right there. At first I thought it was a head gasket, but after doing a little more research, found out it was my intake gasket leaking. Don't usually do this, but I am dealing with a lot of electronics with this one, so I'm gonna undo the battery. If I can find the like wrench size. Nope. Oh, it is that size. Huh. We'll just undo them both. Starting to disassemble this, and first thing that happened is the crankcase ventilation broke. So, ordered new parts to fix that too. Undo all the electronic stuff. Probably should label it or know where it at least goes, but nah, I'm just gonna take them off. Let Jesus take the wheel. Seemed to do pretty good for Carrie Underwood, so. While I was doing this, I noticed something. That idler is way out of whack. Guess I need a new one of them too. I might try to take it off and see if I could fix it and then reinstall it. I don't want to just throw parts at it. So I was going to try to replace this belt tensioner, but I had a friend who had an extra one and he said he would give it to me, so I'm just going to replace it. First thing first, take off the belts. Put the GoPro in a good position, then take off the belt. Belt tensioner is pretty easy, just has a single bolt in the middle. Just pull that out, slide it right off, put the bolt back on for safe storage until you get the new tensioner. So I have everything but the spark plugs or the ignition removed. I'm gonna label all those before I remove any of it, so I know exactly where I took it off. The biggest pain in the butt ever is to try to time a vehicle, fix a vehicle that has plugs in the wrong spot. So I'm just gonna label them all, take off the distributor cap, and lay it aside with the plug still on it, and then hopefully put it all back together in the correct form. I have the front vacuum lines removed. The one for the PCV is, I'm gonna move it. I'm gonna take that straight into a catch can just to simplify everything. Most of the time those PCV valves, they leak after so long, and you're just putting straight oil and gunk out of your heads into your intake, which makes everything dirtier, makes your emissions worse and everything. So I'm gonna plug this one off and take it to a catch can somewhere over here. Yeah, that's where I'm going so far. So I took all the electronic plugs off of, well, everything but the coil, I guess. But I took it off the alternator, Took the one off the AC. I took the main engine ground out. I removed all but one vacuum line, which is kind of stuck back here right now. It's the one, another one that goes to the EGR computer, I guess. I labeled all of my plug wires. I'm going to remove them here in a bit. And I also marked where number 1 is, just in case. Now I got all the wires unplugged and moved out of the way, except the spark plugs and the ignition coil. I need to loosen and remove the vacuum line that goes to your power brakes, and the fuel line to the back here. These fuel lines you got to be real careful with. I have stripped them 2-3 of these little adapters before. If you don't get them lined up perfectly, they get stripped. I stripped them when I put on the TBI spacer. So after further inspection, I was 100% wrong. Definitely wasn't the intake leaking. It's definitely the thermostat. Oops. Oh well, I needed a new intake anyways. So as you can see, I removed the TBI. This return line has seen better days. Definitely, it's kind of crimped right here, and maybe you can see it better from this side, but you can see it's been spun a little bit. So I'm probably gonna have to replace that. Have the TBI off. Took all the EGR stuff off. Most everything. Now I need to start taking off coolant lines and stuff. So I got a small 2.5 gallon jug under there. I'm just gonna drain the radiator. This little petcock valve over here. Which you can't see because everything is in the way. But oh, it's not a petcock, it's just a plug. So even though I did plan on keeping that coolant, looks like it's gonna drain off the oily, nasty frame, so probably not gonna keep that fluid anymore. So I found out why it was leaking. The housing wasn't on there, or the actual thermostat wasn't in the hole correctly, so the housing couldn't seat all the way, so there's a small leak right there. It didn't matter how tight I got it or whatever. So yeah, make sure I don't do that on the next one. Took the rotor cap off, and I might have screwed around and actually had this at top dead center when I stopped it. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna mark pointing towards, put a mark where it is, pointing towards cylinder 1, so I know what orientation the rotor was in. Then I'm gonna pull it out, put another mark where it came out, so when I reinstall it, I'll know where to put it. At least that's what I've been told to do. The bolts are all out. Let's go on an adventure and see what kind of drinking I'm doing tonight. Either happy or sad. Ah. Doesn't look that bad. I mean, there's a little bit of sludge. Has a little had little leaks. Mostly just need to clean up everything and put some rags in the intake gaskets and just clean her up. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. You may ask yourself, are you ever going to see this intake again? If you do, it'll be on a new episode of Crescent Hammer. No, you're never going to see this intake again.